Bengals hold off the Rams. Joe Burrow got the start. More importantly, he was able to finish. 6 sacks for the Bengals defense, a couple of interceptions as well. The Eagles, it's all about your offensive line and your defensive line. And they have the best combination, I think, in football. They run for over 200 yards, and they put away the Buccaneers, previously undefeated. Chargers lose wide receiver Mike Williams out for the season. Jimmy Garoppolo in concussion protocol. So those are the headlines. Going back to what we saw with the Eagles last night, you know, having that offensive line, defensive line is so important. Even go back to what Oregon did against Colorado. They had 7 sacks on Shedeur Sanders. They ran for over 240 yards. The Eagles then last night, you run for over 200 yards. You limit Tampa to just 41 yards rushing. They put pressure on Baker Mayfield. His QBR was 34.5. We can talk about skill position players. And yes, they're going to make the headlines. They're going to make the big money. But you win and lose because of your offensive and defensive lines. If you said the Jets had a decent offensive line, you know, then maybe, you know, we're looking at a different Zach Wilson there. And I'm not going to put everything on Zach Wilson. And I watched pretty much that entire game. Zach Wilson at times doesn't pull the trigger when he needs to. Sometimes you have to anticipate. You saw that with Joe Burrow last night with Jamar Chase, anticipating where you're going to be, and then you throw the ball. Jamar Chase hadn't even turned, and Joe Burrow had already delivered the ball. It was in the air. Zach Wilson needs to understand that. But keep in mind, he was going to be the guy who was going to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a couple of years. He was going to be the guy in waiting. He was going to learn from the master. Then all of a sudden, after 2-3 games, get him out of there. We got to bring in Nick Foles. We got to bring in a backup quarterback. Well, look at the backup. Do you guys know who the backup quarterback is with the Jets?
Tim Boyle?
Tim Boyle. You know why Tim Boyle is there?
He's non-threatening?
And he's friends with Aaron Rodgers.
Oh.
Okay.
Timmy B?
Yes. Look at his stats. Look at his stats in college. Look at his stats in the pros. He should not be the backup quarterback for the Jets. You should have somebody who can actually play, somebody who has experience there.
Dang.
Yeah. You're looking at Tim Boyle's stats? Go ahead. Give me a couple of numbers
His
in there.
career NFL stats?
You can do college,
He's
too.
0 for 3 as a starter in 4 years. He's got 3 touchdowns and 8 picks.
Okay. Go back to college.
Meanwhile, Mike White with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
He got paid, though.
Yeah. But being friends with benefits, that's what you have with Tim Boyle and Aaron Rodgers. So they don't have a backup quarterback there. They have somebody who is great in the quarterback room, I'm going to guess. Rodgers likes him, probably have a great relationship there. You need a quarterback who can help. You need somebody who can play if you need to. But I was watching, a lot of the analysts talking about Zach Wilson. Do I think he's a starter in the league? I don't. Not right now. Once again, I've always thought it was like Zac Efron when he was cast in the movie where he plays basketball. What's the High School Musical?
Okay.
Yeah, so it feels that way. It's a High School Musical starring Zach Wilson.
They kind of had to keep him there because they're in the middle of this contract as well, right?
Yeah.
And financially, they couldn't keep him and Mike White.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were going to do it Trey Lance and just say, you know what, this ain't working out. But if we see more of what we've seen so far, then that probably is going to happen. Yeah, Paul.
But if you're the Jets, you have a long season ahead of you. You know Rodgers is done. You got to know in practice that Wilson's not doing much. Why not sign Nick Foles September 10th or 11th? And then he has 3...
Yeah, but Nick Foles can't escape pressure.
No, but my guess is he'd make better decisions and safer decisions.
I think you have to have somebody who can run because you have to run.
That's Usain Bolt?
You have to have somebody who has the ability to run. And Zach Wilson, they want him to learn, stay in the pocket, but it's not a good offensive line. Start there. And you can't take away Aaron Rodgers and then tell me that the entire team falls apart. I think there's part of Aaron Rodgers thinking when he watches that offensive line of, wow, you know what? If I didn't get hurt, I probably was going to get hurt. It's not a good offensive line. What's the deal with the defense? Does that have anything to do with Zach Wilson? Now, he might not put up a lot of points, and the defense can say, look, we held New England to 15 points. Okay, but you might have to be dominating. If you want to be compared to one of the great defenses of all time, you want to be the Bears or the old Steelers or the Ravens, okay, then you're going to have to shut down people because that offensive line is not good. And I think that's what needs to be mentioned with Zach Wilson's performance. I got Garrett Wilson. I got 2 running backs. Can Dalvin Cook still run? Breece Hall? So the offensive line, you saw that last night with the Eagles. It doesn't matter who they put back there. DeAndre Swift they got for nothing. A 4th-round pick, I think, from the Lions. I mean, they're getting the right people. They took a chance on Jalen Carter with the defensive line. Look at the Niners, offensive, defensive line. The Cowboys don't have 3 starters on their offensive line. They didn't look good against the Cardinals. Not the only reason why they lost, but you have to have that protection there. And you have to be able to put pressure on the quarterback. Plain and simple. We go back, it's as old as time. Can you block? Can you tackle? Can you put pressure on the quarterback? And here we are talking about running the football. We don't need running backs that we pay a lot of money to, but we do need running backs. And I'd rather spend the money on my offensive linemen. Absolutely. But the Eagles, you saw that. It's balanced. They didn't play great, but they haven't played great so far this season. But here they are, 3-0. You're not going to run on them. And you're not stopping their run. And, you know, you have that formation where you have Jalen Hurts lining up short yardage situation. You know, the tush push, cousin to the Bush push.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Old school.
Yeah. The tush push. My wife heard that and she goes, huh? I said, yeah.
What are you watching?
Yes. I'm watching the Eagles game against Tampa Bay. Oh, okay. Joe Namath, Hall of Famer. He's seen enough of Zach Wilson.
And you brought up the coaching. How can a coach make things better for Zach?
How can a coach say the locker room's together? How many teams have we been on? Are you telling me there aren't some cats on the defensive side saying, whoa, man, what's wrong with you? Yeah, there's not all harmony in the locker room. And if there is, they need to get rid of the people. You got to get people in there that are competitors and want to fight to win.
What would you, if somebody handed you Zach Wilson and said, okay, Joe, make him better, what would you do?
Send him to Kansas City to back up against somebody like Mahomes, maybe he'd learn something. I wouldn't keep him. You know, I've seen enough of Zach Wilson, all right? I've seen enough. Has quick feet, can throw a little bit, but I don't believe what's going on up there.
Okay. Well, he was supposed to be learning from Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers got hurt. So sending him to Kansas City to learn under Patrick Mahomes, basically the same thing in New York. It's not all on Zach Wilson. Do I think he was worthy of the number 2 overall pick? No, and I said it at the time. He hadn't played against anybody, and he did the roll left, throw back right, 60 yards, and everybody's in shorts. Oh, my God, did you see that throw? That's not the throw. How many times are you going to do that in a game? I want to see what you do. There was a stat last night with Joe Burrow. They basically said, because of his injury, everything is going to be 10 yards or less. You're not going to be going back and planting, on that tender calf. Get the ball out. That's what they did with him. Well, do that with Zach Wilson. First of all, you have to because the offensive line isn't good.